Hello, everybody. James Williams here. A lot of interesting stuff going on right now with UCLA football. Obviously, whether Chip Kelly stays or goes, you had guys like Deshaun Foster leave the coaching staff recently. He's been the running back coach for a number of years, including during most, if not all, of Chip Kelly's tenure. Now, him leaving is a big loss because he's an alum, much like Jerry Neuheisel is, who is the receivers coach there at UCLA. Now, you lose a guy like Coach Foster. I always thought if Chip Kelly were to leave and go to the NFL or maybe to another college football program, but more likely to the NFL, that I thought Deshaun Foster would be a good guy to get in there. Obviously, having been promoted to associate head coach before the 2023 season, I thought for sure he would be the guy who would at least serve as the interim, if not maybe be a candidate or a strong candidate to be the full-time head coach. So obviously that's out the window now. He just took a job with the Las Vegas Raiders, and he will be reuniting with Britton Brown, the running back from a couple years ago who did get drafted by the Raiders there in Vegas. Now, with that being said, we just mentioned the Raiders. Chip Kelly, Chip Kelly appears to be a candidate for the offensive coordinator job. And it's interesting because if you followed some of my reporting yesterday on Twitter and whatnot, and even ocregister.com, Chip Kelly had interviewed twice. That was reported by NFL Network with the Las Vegas Raiders, but now he was ruled out of the mix because Cliff Kingsbury had jumped in and was going to be the guy for Antonio Pierce and the Raiders, but that went out the window apparently this morning on Saturday, and he had withdrawn his name and is now apparently the leading candidate for the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator job. Now it gets interesting because Chip Kelly was supposed to be maybe, I don't know if it was ever ruled as the leading candidate, but as a strong candidate, and had been tied for a number of weeks now to Dan Quinn and whatever landing spot he was going to go to as the head coach. So there were some early reports that Dan Quinn was obviously in the mix for the Seattle Seahawks job, and Chip Kelly maybe going over there with him to Seattle. Obviously, he gets hired by the Washington Commanders yesterday. That became official today. And the Washington Commanders, had just announced that. So now I don't know if we'll see who will be the offensive coordinator right away, whether it's Chip Kelly, Cliff Kingsbury, or somebody else, but someone else is going to get someone's going to get that job there, and maybe not come today, but maybe it comes in the next couple of days. But now with Kingsbury withdrawing his name, that opens the door for Chip Kelly to go ahead and join Deshaun Foster possibly and Britton Brown possibly over there in Vegas if Antonio Pierce decides that's the guy. I think it means something if they did have two interviews prior to this. But I think more importantly, where does that leave UCLA? As I just mentioned, Deshaun Foster is going to be out of the mix. Do you lean on Jerry Neuheisel, who's that other alum there that I mentioned earlier, and is going to be the guy who can maybe kind of be the alum in the room and kind of maybe keep some of these guys together? I think that's the one tricky thing about all of this for UCLA, is that you have bad timing, very bad timing for all of this. Obviously, UCLA is going to fall mercy to the NFL's hiring cycle here if Chip Kelly does move on, and the timing of that so far removed from the normal coaching carousel kind of coaching movement that takes place in the off season for college football. We're a few weeks removed from that already. You did have a good chunk of that kind of start to come into fruition after you see someone like Nick Saban retire from Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, Jed Fish, a bunch of other guys, including guys on Chip Kelly's staff there. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know what happens. It's up in the air on whether guys are even going to leave because, again, that transfer portal window, one of the early windows already come and gone, and now you're going to have another one here in the coming months or so, coming weeks, I guess. But, yeah, a lot of stuff up in the air. I mean, the cupboards could be bare both on the coaching staff and on this roster, depending on how things shake out. But maybe that's a good thing because I know a lot of UCLA fans, or at least the vocal bunch on Twitter, definitely has been asking for Chip Kelly to be removed as a head coach at UCLA for some time. Obviously, there was some talk of that even during the season as well. So maybe fans will be getting their wish here. It kind of just remains to be seen where they decide to go with all of this. Is there a game of chicken being played here on the buyout between UCLA not wanting to make the first move and getting rid of Chip Kelly, whether Chip Kelly maybe not wanting to make the first move I think if he gets hired by an NFL team, he'll obviously have to, but he wasn't going to leave anytime prior to having another job in place before he was going to have to pay out that buyout for him to leave or someone to pay out that buyout, right? So remains to be seen how all of that stuff's going to work out, if it even happens. They just got their first commitment for the 2025 class. We don't know who that is yet, but we did get a boom from Ethan Young that usually indicates that something or someone actually has committed, and he did have 2025 in that tweet. So it would indicate that's the case, that they do have a commitment. I don't know what they told that commitment to have him commit. Maybe he's one of these guys who's just more committed to the school rather than the coaching staff. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what does that mean for guys like St. John Bosco running back Cam Jones and some of these other guys that did just sign with UCLA, thinking they're going to be playing for Chip Kelly in this 2024 class? That might be up in the air. Where do those guys go? Maybe do they leave? Is all of this noise just enough for them to leave, even if Chip Kelly stays? So a lot to still be discovered, but